I want to build an archipelago of epic islands scattered with ancient Roman architecture, flourishing nature, and magical water. But I basically haven't done any of this before. I haven't built cliffs that are in a super basic design. I haven't built in a Greek or Roman building style before. I haven't built the custom trees I envision covering these islands, and I've never really truly built lore before. What I've done before is plan larger builds ahead of time with wool, so that's where I'm going to start. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to finalize the lore for this world. All I know now is that it's going to involve aqueducts and temples. Okay, so I have the first part of this island built up here, and I wanted to kind of go over how I've done this so far. So initially I just started with this dock here. I'm not sure about the size and shape of it yet, I just kind of put it here to have somewhere to start the island on. The first thing I actually did was this little area to the right here. And what I have on the far right here is kind of some form of sea stack, and then to the left is kind of more the main part of the island with the hill and stuff. And I created this area very intentionally to have a sight line, as this sign says, viewing something here. I'm not sure what that is yet. It could be the temple at the top of the hill, it could be a waterfall, maybe part of the aqueduct, I'm not sure. But I'm leaving that for myself for the future to put something cool here. If you've seen some of my videos before, you may know that I build most of the world to be viewed from the path. And in this case, I envision the path starting at the dock and kind of meandering up until you get to the temple. So from the starting point here, the player, and me, would be along the path, and right at the start, you get a cool sightline of something. And if this is interesting enough, I encourage the player to keep walking along the path to go investigate further. So if I was going to do that, I'd call it the path here, and then there's kind of some hills or cliffs on either side to prevent the player from seeing the sightline from the thing in the sightline immediately. I want them to have to go around and walk on the path a little bit before they actually get closer to whatever this sightline was showcasing. So in this world, I think this path will curve around to the right and then kind of up this way, and then maybe this was like a bridge or something, and then you get to cross it, and then you kind of got that payoff. You saw it, you walked around, and then you got closer to it. Or maybe it's something farther up the mountain. I'm not sure yet. The other thing I wanted to talk about was that this path up here kind of comes to this crest, and I wanted something out here. I envisioned this part of the island kind of stopping maybe about this point away. So pretty close to the path here. So I'm thinking I'm going to have an island just over there, pretty close to this one. And on that, I'm going to put like maybe a defense tower or something interesting. So that when you're walking up this path, you see maybe the top of the tower, and then you sprint up a little bit, and then the full thing is visible. And then you just get a little something to look at on your way up the island. So you see that, and then you kind of carry on this path around this way. So throughout my building of this island, I'm going to keep building out these sight lines on the path all the way up. And I'm not sure how big this place is going to be yet. It depends on how these sight lines really shape it, because this is how I'm making it happen this time. So I'm going to probably put in that island now, and then maybe get the terrain around this side a little bit more figured out. And then maybe I'll start thinking about what I want this sight line over here to actually be. Okay, so I've done a bit more planning here, and I have a couple of these islands built up. I had this one with a tower on it, like I mentioned, that you'll see coming over this crest. And to the left, I built this larger island. And in between these three, it kind of creates this natural cove where I feel like the water would be calmer. So this area will be pretty nice once it's all built up. On this side of the island, I built this little square structure. I have no idea what this is going to be, whether it'll be square in the end or not, but this will be something here. So there's a little bit of a dead-end path going this way. And then the larger path, the main path going up towards the temple, continues on this way. And on this side, I decided to go with an aqueduct for the sight line down here. Unfortunately, the aqueduct height ended up being above the sea stack, so I would have preferred if it was hidden behind the sea stack. I might maybe make this bigger if it's possible. We'll see how it looks later on. But at least this view is still nice. And then I had the path kind of going down here a little bit between one of the supports and the water, because I think that would be pretty cool. And then this aqueduct, the whole area here is lowered down to kind of give the aqueduct a purpose that carries the water from this river and like the little pool here out to the other side. I'm going to kind of continue planning out the aqueducts and rivers because I want to switch these kind of back and forth as I go up towards the temple. I'm going to have one main aqueduct coming off the temple, and then one aqueduct in between somewhere, and then this final one. And in between all those pieces will be streams and pools and rivers and stuff. But I think that is going to be the primary piece that decides how big this island's going to be. So I'm going to start with that, and then once I have that, then I can kind of lay out the temple, and then I'll build the rest of the structure of the actual island, the terrain. So I'm going to get going on that now, and then hopefully while I do all that, I can come up with some more sight lines and plan out the path as I go along. Okay, so I've built up the rest of the island's framework here. Last time it was just this little section here. So continuing on from where we left off, this path curves up here, and then goes underneath this aqueduct, and then comes back up along this ridge here, which is kind of a bit of a valley between these two parts of the island, where I have another aqueduct kind of in between, continuing the flow of the river between these two sections here. And then there's going to be a little bridge here. The path will continue over. There's a little ridge to the left, and then the main peak of the island on the right. And then this is going to be the largest structure on the island. I'm not entirely sure how this is going to look, but it's going to be circular, probably not super huge, but maybe like a dome top, something like that. And then it kind of just looks out to the ocean here. I'm going to put more islands around the rest of it, but I'm going to do that afterwards. So the path continues down that way. A little bit less sharp cliffs here, more of a kind of gradual fall off. And then the path comes through here. There's a little tunnel through this one larger section of the island. And then from this point on, there's some steeper cliffs. So over here we have one more structure, sort of like a square guard tower or something. It continues again through a little tunnel here, some more cliffs, a further tunnel through this way. On top there's going to be another little guardhouse, and then just on top the path will come back, but we'll get to that in a second. So through this tunnel, out to the left, there's going to be this cool sightline here to see these islands, maybe some more in the background or something. But this is going to be all obviously underground. And then I'm thinking I'm going to have some sort of crack here in the side of the cliff, where when you're in the path, you can see out of the cliff and into this area. So that'll be pretty cool to build up. And then the tunnel exits, and there's, again, fairly steep cliffs here. And then it gradually curves back up around to the main temple area. So what I want for this in the end was kind of the main flow water. Again, there's a spring here in the center where the water arises from, and then it kind of comes down this area, and then it splits into 5 little waterfalls before congregating again and then flowing into the river. And then kind of alongside this viaduct here, there are going to be either like little statues or maybe little pillars or something, but there'll be along each section alongside. And at the top, there's just kind of like a semicircle of larger pillars that might be connected in like a half semicircle or something on top as a dome. Not sure yet. But the path will continue up through here, go through kind of this little temple area that will be largely exposed. It's not like a building of any sort, but just a structure. And then the path just terminates here at the peak of the island. So now I have to go and build it. And throughout this process, I was changing my mind back and forth about how I wanted the cliffs to look on this island. Previously, I worked a lot with these grays, similar to these two, but I was a little bit sick of them. I was thinking about doing white cliffs, but I think I might make the structures out of white. And although that would make sense that they would build out of the same material they had available, I think if all the cliffs were white, it would not make the structure stand out at all. So I kind of want them to be different colors. So although I think I'm going to choose white for the structures, I'm kind of thinking about one of the redder kind of color palettes for cliffs, either kind of like this red or maybe more the brownish. Likely a combination of these 5 blocks. That one's duplicated. And then on top, we'll just have like this mixture of green blocks for the grass area. So I'm going to start building that now. I'm probably going to test out an island first to make sure I like the color palette before I commit, obviously, to a whole island. But once that's good, I'm going to start building up the train. I may build some of the smaller structures as I go along just to give myself a break from doing the train the whole way. But for the most part, I'm going to do the train first and then structures after that, and then probably foliage as the last part. So I'm going to go do that now. There are many different ways to make cliffs in Minecraft. Aside from the shape, the way people have been texturing cliffs has changed so much as people have continued to innovate and more blocks have been added. Way back when, peak cliff design involved choosing a few similar colored blocks and mixing them up randomly. This is the method I've used the most, and I think it can still look really good. Some other methods that came along don't mix up the blocks nearly as much. Using gradients or blobs of blocks can make terrain look much more intentional, but they take longer to build as you have to be intentional. The current trend is all about shading. Over the last couple of years, this is what I've been seeing every big YouTuber do for the cliff and rock terrain. This technique is very difficult to pull off, especially if you don't have a program like Axiom. And honestly, I don't love a lot of the shading I've seen. I think people often lean too much into the variation between light and dark, and it can look a little extreme. Also, shading when viewed from up close can look a little bit odd. That said, when done right, it looks absolutely fabulous. Since I don't have Axiom or the skill to shade by hand, I'm going to be using another method. So I finished a few different sections of cliffs on this one small island. And I've basically done 3 different styles with the same color palette. The first one here on the left is kind of smaller patches of the different blocks in all jumbled together. So a little section of the light gray terracotta down there, a little section of granite, the mud blocks, that sort of thing. On the left of this yellow dotted line is the same concept but with larger patches. I also threw in some of the polished granite because the granite all by itself was a little bit too much. And then again, similar with the mushroom stem and the packed mud, putting those blocks together, they are different, but they have very similar colors. So when building like this, they can be combined together. And the last one I did on this little section was completely random, no nonsense at all. And I think my favorite out of the 3 is the large patches. So I'm going to finish doing this island like this, and then we'll confirm that before moving elsewhere, but I think the larger patches are probably going to be the way I go. I do like the smaller patches in some aspects. This is just too messy. But I think that messiness might be an issue if I would do smaller patches on larger sections of cliffs. In a little island like this, I could probably get away with it, but I think if I was looking at this large island as a whole, with cliffs everywhere, I think being this messy would probably be too much. So that's why I'm leaning towards doing these larger patches of the blocks together. So I've taken what I've done on this little island and translated it to the big island. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how this kind of blotchy terraforming cliffs went. The color is basically exactly what I was going for. Nice warmer tones, some redder cliffs, which I hadn't done before. And then the moss on top will, I think, look a lot better when I have custom trees everywhere and some underbrush and a proper forest floor. It might not be all moss. I'll probably mix in some dirt, maybe some grass blocks, maybe some other green blocks, like concrete, like I did in this area over here. I just kind of tested it here. I'll see later if I want to do that to the whole island. For now, it's just moss. The next step after this will be the structures. I've done the river in between these aqueducts, but that, and along with all the other buildings and towers and stuff, is next up on the list. I did the path at the same time as I was terraforming because I had to rip that up later anyway if I hadn't done the path at the same time. And I actually really like how it's feeling, especially on this side. The cliffs are much more sheer, and it's quite a treacherous feeling when you're walking along here, which is exactly what I was going for. Yeah, so pretty happy so far, and we'll see how the structures go. The lore for this world is that over a millennia ago, a half-dozen people from a Roman-inspired civilization were lost at sea on a small boat. The navigator had fallen ill, and the remaining crew were inexperienced. They sailed into an undiscovered archipelago and found what they called the Insula Neptuni, which translates to Neptune Island, with Neptune being the god of water. They named it as such because at the peak of the island is a spring of water said to grant the drinker with good fortune. After stopping and drinking from the spring, the crew found their way home with a tailwind for the entire journey. This news spread, and eventually every new leader of the empire would come to the isle after their coronation to drink from the waters and ensure the success of their reign. But over time, the empire's secret became known, and soon there were others who wanted to gain the benefits. The empire built defenses across the archipelago to fend off enemies, and managed to keep the water to themselves. But after hundreds of years, the empire faltered. The good fortune of the waters had made the leaders complacent, and they took unnecessary risks, believing the island's water would ensure their success. But even the waters had their limit. Famine, war, and plague decimated the civilization over the course of a few decades, and the Insula Neptuni transitioned into folklore. Its location was forgotten, and the structures there began to collapse. But to this day, the waters keep flowing, waiting for the next lost travelers to bless. Okay, I got all the structures down on this main island here, and honestly, I'm pretty delighted with how it turned out. I don't think I'm as good at building structures as I am at other parts of Minecraft, like maybe terraforming. And when I go one by one on these structures, I don't necessarily absolutely love any of them. I think these towers are pretty good design. They're simple enough, but when I went through and ruined them afterwards, I thought that turned out pretty well. But looking at these structures as a whole, as an ensemble, I really like them. This is exactly what I was going for with this island. Just all these little structures dotted all over the place. And altogether, I really like how they feel. It's exactly what I was going for. But even if I don't entirely love any one structure, as a whole, this is what I was going for, and I'm really happy with them. As you saw in the time lapse, when I build ruin structures, I usually build the structure itself as it would have been when it was first built, and then I go through adding holes or ruining pillars and stuff afterwards. I find it's an easier way to build rather than building something ruined from the start. You can kind of pick and choose where it might make sense for something to be more or less ruined. Like this one I thought was a little bit more enclosed here and maybe wouldn't have faced quite as harsh weathering, so I only had one ruined spot versus some of the other more exposed towers I ruined in more places because I thought they would have been hit harder. But yeah, on the whole, I'm pretty happy with these. I got a little bit more to do on the outer islands, but I'll have to build those when the outer islands are actually done. I'll probably just copy paste these towers around in a couple more locations. And now on to the nature. When adding custom nature into your world, it's important to build the right trees for the landscape and look you want in your world, as they dictate how the ecology will feel. Even with identical rockwork, different trees will entirely change how that region of your world feels. After you've decided on the ecology, you'll want to build a few different trees, and even better, different tree types. This is something I haven't done much in the past. Typically, I've just created a few different versions of the same tree, which I copy-pasted across the land. But having different species of tree can greatly improve how a forest feels. An additional step for further immersion is having trees of the same type at various stages of growth. If you're building a creative world, and making 8 to 10 custom trees should be sufficient, which you can then copy-paste over the region as needed. This is what I'm going to do. Now, below the canopy is also important. Having the right underbrush and forest floor will determine how the environment feels for a player to walk through your forest, rather than just from how it looks from afar. Adding small rocks, bushes, flowers, mushrooms, dirt patches, streams can all make a forest look like it's thriving. I think it's best to use a mix of everything if you're hoping to create a lush and flourishing feel. So, what did I do in this world? I built up a few of the custom trees I'm going to put into this world. The first 3 I started with were 3 different stages of growth of this kind of spruce-looking tree. I started off with the smallest one, made from walls and fences, some trapdoors here and there to give it some more shape. And then this is a mix of spruce leaves and birch leaves. Not super tall. And then the next one, I introduced more of these walls, mud and the tough walls. The tough walls are really good at looking like actual tree bark. Most tree bark is actually very close to gray rather than brown. And then the actual kind of angles on this tough here, it makes it look a lot like bark too. So it's a really good block for making bark on trees. Also using the new shelves. And again, same leaves here, just a little bit bigger. The branches here are usually a mix of fence gates and actual fences. Sometimes throwing in trapdoors as well for alternatives. And on the final one, very similar ideas. Again, just expanding out the space further with some walls and actual full blocks this time. And going up higher and higher. I put in this first tree into the world just to see how it would fit in. And I thought the actual size of it was really good. About the right size difference between the actual structures and the trees. So I think when I put these all over the world, it's going to look how I wanted it to. So I put that one in there just for a test, and this height ratio matched up. The tree I went for after this was an arbutus looking type. So I'm using, again, the tough here, and then using these kind of redder, orangier looking blocks for where the bark looks like it's peeled off, like in real life. And then also mixing a little bit of jungle. And then I thought the mangrove leaves actually worked out pretty well here for the actual arbutus leaves. I almost never use this mangrove leaves, but here they worked out pretty well. And again, kind of just did 3 sizes. These last 2 are pretty similar in size, but this one has a little bit more branches and stuff. Yeah, similar, using the shelves and the walls and the full box. Just instead of going straight up, this one kind of goes up more to the side with the branches. As for this last one, I was thinking about kind of doing a similar sort of design to the first one, so taller, but with a lighter tone. So here I got some of the jungle blocks, as well as some of the mud blocks, and then I'm going to use lighter leaves like the azalea ones. And I think I want this tree to be a little bit narrower than these ones. So this one's kind of comes out not super far, but a little bit. But there's other ones I want to be quite narrow. So I'm going to go ahead and try and build the small one, and then I'll talk to you after that. Alright, I got this first little tree done. It took me a few attempts for this one. The other ones were all faster. I still don't totally love it. I think the small trees are often harder to get right. When the tree's bigger, you have more time to shape the branches how you want. Your branches are 3 or 4 blocks long instead of like 1 or 2. So that can always be difficult. It was a little bit bushier than I thought I was going to be originally. I think they're going to end up looking quite similar to these ones, just with different colors, but I'm fine with that. So next is to make the 2 larger ones, and we'll come back and then we'll have our whole rack of 9 trees that I'll copy paste all over the island. So these last few trees are done, and I'm happier with them than the smaller tree, especially this big one I thought turned out quite well. In the end, it was quite a similar design to the sprucier trees, but in totality, I'm pretty happy with these 9 trees. Different stages of growth, different species, different colors, so I think they're all going to blend really, really well together. So now, you get to put them all over the island. Alright, I have all the trees on the main island here put in, and I really like how they all blend together. One thing I was really focused on when I was putting these trees in was maintaining some of the sight lines I wanted to. Obviously there wasn't really an opportunity to block this tower, but I was considering putting more trees in front of that circular one, but I opted against it just because I wanted there still to be a pretty sight line and a good view of most of the structure when you come over this little ledge here. And then similarly, I was okay with kind of blocking the view of the main structure at the top there, because there's this big one, the aqueduct in the way, that I'm more concerned about the player seeing here. But by the time you get up around here, then I wanted to have a really good view of that, to give you a little impression of what you get to see when you finally make it to the top. And so I had a couple patches of grass here that I ultimately didn't put any trees on because I wanted to preserve that sight line. So that was what I was focused on when I was putting all these trees in. And then I just started on this little patch of the forest floor over here. I started putting in a couple of the rocks with some granite and terracotta, and then just a mixture of bushes and short grass, along with the firefly bushes, and then just little patches of flowers. I think I may want to come through and put some dirt around the base of the trees, but I think other than that, I'm going to leave it this mixture of moss. Obviously, most of this terrain is just moss currently, but I want to mix in the other green blocks like the lime terracotta and the green wool, because I think those patchworks look quite good together. So I'm going to do that over the rest of the island now. Alright, so the forest floor is all in. I put a bunch of flowers all over the place. It's looking really pretty. I also added little hanging glowberries and stuff on the edges. I thought that helped tie it together as well. And this main island is now looking really, really good. Fortunately, I'm not quite done yet because I have to do all of the other islands. So that's what I'm going to work on now. And then after that, I have to do the part I've been absolutely dreading, which is the ocean floor. Because right now, these cliffs only go 1 block down and they look terrible. So I'm going to have to extend them and then use mud and make the ocean floor actually look decent. That's a lot of work for not that much gain, but I think it has to be done. So those are the 2 things I'm going to come back on, and then we'll see how that goes. So I put in time, and now all of these other wonderful islands are in place, and the ocean floor has been built. This archipelago has really taken shape. There's so many fun sight lines on this build, especially with the other islands in the background. I hope this video is beneficial in showing how I take larger builds like this from vague thoughts into planning and then into reality. I definitely pushed my building capabilities with this one, but I'm glad I did. The structures are fairly basic, but I think effective in telling the story of the island, and the trees are the best I've ever built, and I want to make more of them, maybe a future video idea. But I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like if you liked, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye for now.